What's up, Whisper Nation, and welcome into our primetime matchup show. We're going to go through the three primetime matchups on the slate here.
Right here.
We're going to start with the Sunday night football matchup. Kansas City's Chiefs going up against the Denver Broncos. This is a 51-point over-under with Kansas City favored by 2 touchdowns, 14 points here. Not a surprise there. But before we get started, if you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit subscribe, hit that like button. Let us know in the comments what your start-sit questions are. As always, we're here for you, Whisper Nation, in this ever-important Week 13 to get you into the playoffs. We start on the Denver Broncos side of the football, and I think the most important thing as far as fantasy is concerned, Johnny, is the running back core and what you think that's going to shake out like in this matchup.
Kansas City, it can be had in the running game. Just oftentimes teams aren't because they're trying to keep up with Pat Mahomes. So that is a little bit of a problem there. But you look at Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay. They are the two main guys here that take up the carries for Denver. And when you're looking at Philip Lindsay, he missed practice today. And so you want to keep that monitored, right? For Melvin Gordon's sake. I think if Philip Lindsay doesn't go, then I think you can start Melvin Gordon in this game. He's played on 50% or more of snaps all season, but he's only seen less than 14 total touches 3 times this season. So if Philip Lindsay isn't there, I think that will inflate his numbers just enough to where I think he'll be used, because he gets used in the pass game, whereas Philip Lindsay doesn't. Philip Lindsay usually just gets carries between the tackles. And he's seen 9 or more touches a game only twice this year. So he's more of the change of pace guy. Melvin Gordon is the guy that you're going to want to start in this matchup if you're thinking about going with the running back. But once again, monitor the health of Philip Lindsay, because I think Melvin Gordon becomes more of an like an RB3 flex play if Philip Lindsay is indeed active for this game.
Austin, when we look at Kansas City, they've been really tough against the pass, and so that leads us to question if there's any wide receiver we're going to be worth going after here, especially these quarterbacks for Denver coming off a missed game and missed time with the team.
This is a really interesting dynamic from a matchup perspective. Denver going up against Kansas City's 9th-ranked pass defense, and also just with the homogenized output and opportunity I've seen between their 3 big receivers, and Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, and KJ Hamler. Now, I know that Johnny's hit on all of the games that Jerry Jeudy has popped off on, so I'd be listening to his whispers if he's got any coming that way, because truth be told, it was difficult to find a major separating variable between the 3 of them. They're all looking similar in terms of snap share, targets 30, 26, and 23, and output all around 20 points combined over the last 3-week stretch. Jerry Jeudy, the point you really need to keep a lookout for is his ankle and how that health is going to be coming into this matchup against the Chiefs. But not counting last week, the man's had 8+ targets in the last 5 weeks. The opportunity is there. Tim Patrick, 26 targets over the last 3 weeks, not counting last week's. I don't even know what we call that game. And KJ Hamler, 8 to 14 points in his last 3 weeks, a range in there. So you're looking at flex-worthy wide receiver 4 type wide receivers from one of these 3. It's not a great matchup, but you do expect Denver to be playing from behind. Game flow should be in their favor, but there isn't a clean receiver here who stands out to me. That could become a little more obvious if Jerry Jeudy is forced to miss any more practice, but until we know that, it's a grab one out of the bag for me.
Yeah, speaking of grabbing it out of the bag, I'm just wondering if we're going to be able to trust Noah Fant here. Like, it seems to be a crapshoot with the guy, especially, prior to the no quarterback game, he had 5 or more targets in 4 of his last 5. It's not great production, but against Miami, he had his most yards since week 2. He's 11th in the NFL in tight end targets. That's with a bye and some missed games from injury. You're going to face a Kansas City defense that's middle of the pack against tight ends, 8.1 fantasy points per game allowed. And they've allowed the 10th most receiving yards to tight ends in 2020. So there's something to be had there. I do think I would trust Fant in streamable fashion, kind of back end tight end 1. But I would need to see Drew Lock go in this game, and obviously, you need to monitor that as well. On the other side of the ball, we know what we get when we get the Kansas City Chiefs. We get, a high octane offense. Patrick Mahomes, is a bet to get 400 yards or 4 to 5 touchdowns, almost every week. This is a guy that just continues to do it. But Johnny, you wanted to talk a little bit about one of those studs, and that's Travis Kelce.
Yeah, just to ease the pain a little bit of those that didn't draft Travis Kelce this year. Look, the matchup bottom 6 in points allowed to the tight end position. For Denver's pretty stout against the tight end. But it doesn't matter. With Travis Kelce, you're starting him. Something to look out for this weekend while you're watching Travis Kelce just dominate all over the field. The 31-year-old is the first tight end in NFL history to accomplish a feat of going over 1,000 yards in 5 consecutive seasons. He's just shy of that as of right now, but he will get there this weekend. So make sure you're watching out. And then Travis Kelce, in every game but one this season, he's had at least 50 receiving yards or a touchdown. So they don't get much safer than Travis Kelce at the tight end position.
Austin, something that's interesting to me, I mean, obviously Tyreek Hill is a stud, but what is Sammy Watkins' return? What has that meant for the other pass catchers here?
It would mean I would avoid those other pass catchers. If you were entertaining Demarcus Robinson, maybe Mecole Hardman, this infusion of Sammy Watkins, to me, is going to really limit the opportunity we could expect from Demarcus Robinson or Mecole Hardman. Starting with the prior there in Demarcus Robinson, we've seen a nice increase from his role as of late, 81, 74% snap share over the last 3 weeks, with a combined 11 catches on 14 targets in the last 2 weeks. But the man has not broken 69 yards all season long. And with Sammy Watkins now back, I do not see that going up. Sammy Watkins in that return last week had a 71% snap share. He was the number 2 wide receiver in terms of targets. And I just don't see that switching up. Whether he's effective or ineffective, Sammy Watkins' role looks pretty solidified as that number 2 wide receiver opposite of Tyreek Hill, which is just going to suppress the role of those other receivers as mentioned. And just a quick note, though, on Tyreek Hill, only 7 quarterbacks have scored more points in PPR than Tyreek Hill. He's the number 1 in all formats and probably on a pace to set some records. So you got him, obviously. I'd feel okay about Sammy Watkins until he gets hurt again. It's only a matter of time. It's on the horizon, but you might get a good game out of him in the meantime.
You're feeling good about Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Pat Mahomes, but I'm not feeling too great about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, this guy, prior to the Bell signing, he was averaging 21.3 touches per game. Since then, he's down to 10.6 touches per game. I mean, that's almost half, pretty much half as much. 21.3 touches per game right now. That would be the 5th highest mark in the NFL. 10.6 for context, that's 43rd. So he's not doing it for you as far as volume is concerned. And so really what he's been is a matchup dependent back. He only has had double-digit standard points in 2 of his last 5 games, but he does have a nice matchup here. This should help GMs get into the playoffs. This is a Denver defense allowing the 10th most points per game to opposing running backs. We talked about the 14-point favorites that they are in this game, and they've allowed Denver 9 touchdowns to running backs. That's the 5th most in the NFL. So I actually do like CEH here. I know the volume hasn't been there, but this is a spot that you can try to give you a little bit of confidence in.
Yeah, and they've allowed the 2nd most fantasy points for running backs for the last 5 weeks. So it's definitely a trend you want to hit.
Yeah, I just think it's not, maybe not a smash spot, but it's definitely like an RB2 flex worthy spot here where, CH has kind of been hard to trust. I want to give Whisper Nation a little bit of confidence in that game. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you like what you saw, go ahead and click subscribe. And if you want to watch more fantasy football content, check out one of these videos.